How this Mexican Mafia movie led to the loss of life of 10 people associated with the film. The Mexican Mafia was so enraged by the depictions of gang members in this 1992 film that they sent hits out on people who actually worked on the movie. This caused a deadly hit of 3 consultants in the film who were former or active members of the Mexican Mafia. It is also alleged, according to Danny Trejo himself, that at least 10 people lost their lives in relation to the 1992 crime movie American Me. The director himself was even extorted by a gang member who they used as an inspiration for one of the characters in the film. There were many gangster movies that have depicted criminal life in extreme detail, but mostly in the accuracy of the depictions. But rarely do we hear about a movie's response being so extreme that the people have lost their lives after the release of a movie. According to federal indictments, there have been 3 confirmed assassinations of people tied to the film. There have been people who passed away on sets from accidents or mishandling firearms, more recently with Alec Baldwin on the set of Rust, and the sad passing of Brandon Lee 30 years ago during the filming of The Crow due to negligence in handling a firearm. There was also the Twilight Zone accident in 1983, which caused the loss of life from a helicopter freak accident of 3 people. 2 of them were young children. What we will be discussing today is a unique case. The loss of lives were not accidents, but real targeted hits by the Mexican Mafia. There was even a hit placed on a grandmother who was an actor in the film. Art inspires reality, and reality inspires art. This story is a testament to the statement we've heard debated through the years, decades, and centuries. We are going to be breaking down what really happened, why these hits occurred, and how they occurred. First, we will need to give some backstory to truly understand why these events unfolded and the motivations behind them. Throughout the 80s and 90s, there were many hood movies, gangster movies, and mafia movies. These films were often inspired by real events or played close to what really happened in the real world. Often these film stories were fiction but borrowed elements of gang culture or the mafia, changing names of mob bosses but keeping the character of them. Or they portrayed real-life people who are already dead decades ago. Many ex-mobsters have been consultants on films in order to accurately depict the essence of the crime life. All of Scorsese's crime films, like Goodfellas, Casino, and The Irishman, had ex-mobsters consult on the film and even act in them. Even The Godfather had involvement from the Italian mafia during its production, with real gangsters acting in the film. For the 1992 crime film American Me, they hired former real-life gang members to give their insight on the film. However, due to the backlash of the film's depiction of certain events in the film, the consultants became targets of the real Mexican Mafia. At least 3 consultants were unalived as a result of their participation in this film. This is a crazy story. To understand the nature of Mexican Mafia movies or Chicano movies, we need to understand the history of LA hood movies. The exploitation era, early to late 1970s. The evolution of LA hood movies can be traced back to the early 1970s with exploitation cinema before transitioning into the socially conscious dramas of the 1990s. Alongside the black-centric narratives that dominated the genre, Mexican American stories also emerged, painting a broader picture of life in Los Angeles hoods. During the 1970s, the rise of blaxploitation films brought inner-city struggles to mainstream audiences. Though not strictly hood movies in the later sense, they laid the foundation by focusing on black or Hispanic protagonists, crime, and systemic oppression. Some key films in the period include The Mac, 1973, a classic about a pimp who returns to Oakland, but its themes of street hustling and police corruption reflected the realities in LA and other urban centers. Black Caesar, 1973, starring Fred Williamson, this film showcased the rise and fall crime story akin to Scarface, a template later adopted by 90s hood films. Coffee, 1974, starring Pam Grier, this film was a rare female-led entry into the street crime genre. Though these films leaned into Pulp Fiction-style action, they set a precedent for depicting street violence and systemic racism. Boulevard Nights, one of the earliest Hollywood films to focus on Chicano gang culture, provided a rare cinematic portrayal of Mexican American life in East LA during the 1970s. Directed by Michael Pressman, Boulevard Nights is a crime drama set in East Los Angeles that explores the lives of young Chicano gang members. The film portrays the cycle of gang violence and the difficulty of escaping it, ultimately serving as both a character-driven drama and a cautionary tale about the dangers of street life. The film captured the realities of barrio life, influencing later depictions of gang culture in movies like American Me and Blood In, Blood Out. Upon release, Boulevard Nights was controversial as some feared it would incite gang violence. However, it also resonated deeply with Chicano audiences for its authenticity and depiction of the struggles faced by young Latinos. Despite its mixed reception at the time, Boulevard Nights remains an important piece of Chicano cinema and a landmark film for its depiction of Latino identity in American society. The 1980s, gangs, crack epidemic, and the rise of LA street culture. Another important landmark film from Mexican LA hood films was the film Zoot Suit from 1981. This one is important because it starred the director of American Me, Edward James Olmos, when he was just an actor. The Zoot Suit was the first Chicano Broadway and Hollywood film adaptation, marking a major milestone in Latino representation in mainstream entertainment. The film dramatizes the wrongful conviction of Henry Levas and the 38th Street Gang, highlighting the racial discrimination faced by Mexican Americans in the 1940s. The film blends real history with myth and fantasy. Zoot Suit paved the way for future Chicano films like La Bamba and American Me. The most impactful movie on the LA hood genre was the 1988 crime drama Colors, one of the first major films to depict Bloods and Crips culture directly, starring Sean Penn and Robert Duvall as cops navigating the gang wars of LA. This was a turning point, moving away from the over-the-top style of blaxploitation into more realistic, documentary-like portrayals. During this time, hip-hop and street culture also became a major influence, with LA-based artists like NWA bringing gangster rap into the mainstream, further shaping the aesthetic and storytelling of the hood movie genre. The golden age of hood cinema, 1991 to 1995. The early 90s saw the peak of hood films, particularly those depicting Black and Chicano experiences in Los Angeles. These films were darker, more socially conscious, and highly influential. Black LA hood films. Boys in the Hood, 1991. John Singleton's landmark film that defined the modern hood movie. A coming-of-age story set in South Central LA. It tackled police brutality, gang violence, and fatherhood. Menace to Society, 1993. Directed by the Hughes brothers, this film was a grittier and more nihilistic counterpart to Boys in the Hood, depicting the cycle of violence through the eyes of a young gang member. South Central, 1992, a lesser-known but powerful film about a former gang member trying to steer his son away from crime. Friday, 1995. While a comedy, Ice Cube's Friday still portrayed South Central's culture, marking a shift from violent hood dramas to a more lighthearted, character-driven perspective. 1990s Mexican American hood films. While Black-led hood films were dominant in the early 90s, Mexican American stories also emerged, reflecting the parallel struggles of Chicano communities. American Me, 1992, directed by and starring Edward James Olmos. This film explored the history of Chicano gang culture, the prison system, and the creation of the Mexican Mafia, LLED. Its brutally realistic depiction of life in and out of prison made it one of the most respected films in the genre. Blood In, Blood Out, 1993, a sprawling epic directed by Taylor Hackford. This film followed three cousins, one gang member, one artist, and one cop, navigating East LA gang life from the 1970s into the 90s. While less realistic than American Me, it became a cult classic. Mi Vida Loca, 1993, a lesser-known but important film that focused on Chicana gang life, directed by Allison Anders. These films expanded the hood genre, showing that the struggles depicted in Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society were also happening in LA's Mexican American neighborhoods. If you are a fan of LA gang movies, then you know that the two most famous Mexican LA gang movies are Blood In, Blood Out, and the topic of today's video, American Me. It is debated which film is the better film. For me personally, I think American Me is the better movie. However, Blood In, Blood Out didn't have the deadly aftermath of American Me. The making of American Me. American Me was released in 1992, produced, directed, and starring Hispanic actor Edward James Olmos in his directorial debut. In the film, he plays a character named Montoyo Santana, who is loosely based on the Mexican Mafia boss Rodolfo Cadena, who was at one point the boss of the gang LLED. We will come back to this later. Danny Trejo warned Edward James Olmos about the potential dangers while making the movie American Me. Trejo, who had connections to the Mexican Mafia from his time in prison, claimed that Olmos' depiction of the gang in the film was highly controversial and could have real-life consequences. Trejo and others reportedly advised Olmos that certain elements of the film, including its portrayal of the gang leaders and themes of assault, could offend actual gang members. The film is a fictionalized account of the founding and rise to power of the Mexican Mafia and the California prison system from the 1950s into the 1980s. Parts of the film were shot in Folsom State Prison and the California Institution for Men. Shooting lasted for 3 weeks and included 800 inmates and guards who appeared as extras. Scenes shot in Los Angeles included gang members as extras. In the prison prison parts of the movie, Edward Olmos managed to get on-screen real-life gang members from the Bloods and Crips, Aryan Brotherhood, Nazi Lowriders, Hells Angels, 18th Street, White Fence, La Colonia de Watts, Dogtown, Eastside Clover, and the infamous Black Guerrilla family. The story of American Me follows the rise and fall of Montoya Santana, a young man who becomes a powerful leader within the Mexican Mafia while serving time in prison. Growing up in East Los Angeles, Santana is drawn into the gang life and eventually lands in Folsom State Prison, where he builds an empire of fear and control. However, his brutal leadership and attempts to balance his newfound power with a desire for redemption lead to tragic consequences. As he tries to break free from the cycle of violence, his past actions catch up with him, culminating in an inevitable downfall. The film paints a bleak but powerful portrait of gang culture, institutional violence, and the struggle for identity. This movie is loosely based on the real-life Mexican Mafia gang, LLED. LLED, Spanish for the M, is the common name for the Mexican Mafia, one of the most powerful and notorious prison gangs in the United States. Despite the name, LLED is not affiliated with the Mexican government or traditional Mexican cartels, but instead a criminal organization that originated within the California prison system. LLED was founded in the late 1950s at Dual Vocational Institution, DVI, in Tracy, California, by a group of Mexican American inmates. It was originally formed to protect Latino prisoners from other gangs, but quickly evolved into an aggressive, organized criminal syndicate. Over time, it extended its influence beyond prison walls into street gangs, drug trafficking, extortion, and hit operations. Unlike traditional street gangs, LLED operates more like a mafia-style organization with a hierarchical structure, key roles, and culture. Blood in, blood out. Once a member, the only way out is through death. No snitching. Cooperating with law enforcement is punishable by death. Respect and obedience. Lower gang members and affiliates are expected to follow orders from high-ranking members. Why LLED took issue with American Me. There is one scene in particular that is widely discussed as the main reason for the Mafia's retaliation against the film's production. Early in the film, the main character, who is loosely based on LLED co-founder Rodolfo Cadena, is sent to juvenile hall. In the scene where he is a young man in juvenile hall, he is assaulted without consent by other prison inmates. This was received as an extreme violation of the code of the organization the movie is based on. Other violations in the film were the depiction of the Mafia's origins. The film suggests that the Mexican Mafia was founded under circumstances that some real-life members found inaccurate or disrespectful. Unauthorized storytelling. Edward James Olmos allegedly did not get approval before making the film, which is a major offense when depicting real-life criminal organizations. Mexican Mafia member Joe Pegleg Morgan, who served as the inspiration for the character of JD, played by William Forsythe, allegedly attempted to extort money from director Edward James Olmos. Court documents show that Olmos was a victim in one extortion count contained in a 33-count federal indictment. Depicting the R-word of a Mexican Mafia boss is a big no-no, and the production would face their wrath through a series of hits. Victim number 1, Charlie Brown Manriquez, March 25th, 1992. The first incident occurred only 12 days after the premiere of American Me in 1992. Charlie Brown Manriquez was a high-ranking member of the Mexican Mafia. He was a consultant on the film American Me as he had first-hand experience as a former member. The hit placed on Manriquez is speculated to not have been directly involved with his association with American Me. In court documents, it was revealed by a fellow member that Manriquez was in prison in 1991. During a stint in the clink, he and another member named Castro agreed to stick two other individuals in the prison. Castro succeeded in his agreement to shank his target multiple times. However, Manriquez failed to fulfill his mission with two different opportunities to do so. This was seen as a sign of weakness within the organization, and Castro was informed that he should do whatever he felt was right, which he interpreted as a request to take out Charlie Brown Manriquez. A week after Castro's release, he met with LLED member by the name of David Smilion Gallardo. They agreed that they should take out Manriquez. It was Gallardo's mission to undertake. A week later, on March 25th, 1992, 12 days after the premiere of American Me, David Gallardo searched the area of the Ramona housing projects in the Boyle Heights neighborhood of East Los Angeles, which was also LA's oldest housing project. Gallardo found Charlie Brown Manriquez outside. He carried out his orders and blasted Charlie in the face. Charlie then turned around to run the other way when Gallardo blasted him in the back. LAPD reported that Charlie Brown Manriquez was hit 6 times. Police recovered several .380 caliber semi-automatic shell casings at the scene and 3 .380 caliber bullets from Manriquez's body. It is unknown whether this hit was due to his involvement as a technical advisor for the movie, or if it was for disobeying direct orders to take out a prison inmate the year before in 1991. Victim number 2, Ana Lzaraga. May 13, 1992, 49-year-old grandmother Ana Lzaraga was also known commonly as the Gang Lady. Ana Lzaraga was not only a technical advisor on the film, but also had a role as a part of Julia's mother. She was a former gang member who became a community youth counselor and official consultant to the director Edward James Olmos. In the morning of May 13, 1992, Ana was preparing to leave to attend her mother's funeral. As she was ready to leave, according to a federal indictment, La M ordered her hit and she was unalived in front of her son and her boyfriend at the driveway to her house in Lincoln Heights. This was especially tragic for someone who had turned their life around from a background of violence to helping others. Not only did she recently have the passing of her own mother, but her own child witnessed her loss of life. Victim number 3, Manuel Rocky Luna. Friday, August 7th. 1993, over a year after the film's release and the assassination of the 2 other film's consultants, a hit was ordered on Mexican Mafia member Rocky Luna. 53-year-old Manuel Rocky Luna was a member of the Mexican Mafia La M, who was an unofficial consultant on American Me, the only one of the consultants who was allegedly an active member of the Mafia. He reportedly downplayed his role as a consultant in the film in an attempt to ease tensions with his affiliation to his crime life. This did not work. Sitting in his car one night in the Ramona Gardens, the same place where Charlie Brown Manriquez was found, he was unalived by 3 shots to his chest at point-blank range. He was found by authorities in his car the next day. These 3 incidents had people who worked on American Me, but there are allegedly at least 7 others that lost their lives due to the involvement in the film, according to ex-criminal turned actor Danny Trejo. The tragic aftermath of American Me serves as a chilling reminder of the real-world consequences that can arise when art intersects with criminal reality. While many films have faced backlash for their depictions of gang life, few have resulted in such extreme retaliation, with at least 3 confirmed assassinations and alleged 10 lives lost. The Mexican Mafia's aggressive response to the film demonstrates the power that narratives hold, not just in shaping public perception, but in provoking real-life consequences. Edward James Olmos set out to tell a cautionary tale about the dangers of gang life, but in doing so, he unintentionally provoked one of the most notorious criminal organizations in America. This case remains one of the most infamous examples of how storytelling, when it treads too close to dangerous realities, can have deadly repercussions. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the Medium Cool Show.